When you have a team of physicians and nurses that really truly care about their patients, that translates into patient care.
It's a small practice, it's a small town. Everybody really takes that time to put the patient first.
Everybody cares what's happening to me and that I'm making progress and I'm gaining my freedom back and my mobility back.
The interest. Welcome into your Oklahoma State franchise post-game show. Colby Powell, Donovan Woods with you as we just watched TCU manhandle Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State led 3-0. We all were just about to fall asleep, and then TCU scored 3 quick touchdowns, 1 at the end of the first half, 2 in the first minute and a half of the third quarter. And Donovan, Oklahoma State 3-2 this year against ranked teams, now 3-4 against unranked opponents, and they just completely laid another egg. This is the, 5th time this season we've sat here and talked about this team just completely laying an egg. By the way, the game has 9 seconds left. Oklahoma State's going to try a Hail Mary because TCU just missed a field goal, but they got to go 80 yards in 9 seconds. The game's over. TCU is going to win the game 31-24.
Yeah, it's been quite the season, ups and downs. You know, you playing extremely well against some of these other teams, some of the better teams on your schedule, but for whatever reason, when the team comes in and has a schedule or a record that is not what you would expect from the top of the teams at the conference, we go out there and don't play very well. And it showed today, and it's really pretty much shown throughout the entire season. We haven't been consistent in how we've taken the field, and you know, this game is getting kind of weird here down towards the end. But I mean, TCU just kind of dominated us in I mean, when you talk about penalties, when you talk about physicality, when you talk about offense and defense, Rager just did so much for TCU, and they've been a team since all of their quarterbacks have been getting hurt that haven't been very good offensively, but they still play good defense and pretty much shut Oklahoma State down in this ball game. But it's disappointing. I mean, it really is. I don't have a ton of words. You know, it's a tough game for Oklahoma State right now.
Yeah, these are the post games that are tough. It's like, what do you say about an Oklahoma State team that has just come out and, I mean, there was no energy, no life whatsoever from this Oklahoma State team for the first 3 quarters, and it's like the 4th quarter starts and they're like, oh my gosh, we've only got 1 quarter to come back. By that point, it's too late. You can't just try to flip a switch like that. They did it last week against West Virginia. They flipped a switch at halftime. They tried to wait until the start of the 4th quarter tonight. It doesn't work like that. You can't just not play for 3 quarters and then hope to come back on somebody in the 4th.
Yeah, and you kind of get a feel for those things as well.
It's officially over, 31-24, TCU wins.
You kind of get a feel for those things as well. I mean, Oklahoma State came out and you could just tell they didn't seem excited to be playing a football game, to beat a TCU team. And I really don't have a ton because it's so frustrating. I mean, we didn't seem like we had the energy to come out here and expect to win a ball game, and it showed in the effort. TCU looked like they had a team full of Darrell Reeveses as they were challenging our receivers for the ball, coming up and tackling them. I mean, this didn't look like a team that had lost 6 games and an Oklahoma State offense who at one time led the country in yards and a Belindakoff finalist. I mean, he was out there having a tough time along with the rest of the Oklahoma State receivers. It was
nobody was getting separation.
No one was.
Yeah, you got to give some credit to the secondary for TCU and the way they played, but still, Oklahoma State offensively, you got to be more innovative. You've got to do different things. You've got to be able to run the football whenever TCU is lining up in that 3-3-5. At times, you've got to be able to run the ball. Oklahoma State just did not play well, and we've talked at points this season about Oklahoma State taking on the personality of its head coach. And the team's been all over the place this season. Because Mike Gundy's been all over the place this season. One week, he's joking around, he's being goofy, he's having fun. The next week, he's threatening to pull availability if anybody asks about McCleskey. And then he's making the farting sounds about Twitter. And then he's going after snowflakes, transferring, and all these different things. And he's just all over the map. And the team is all over the map. No discipline. Penalties, roughing the kicker penalty, that's brutal. The lack of focus that the team showed. A.J. Green has an interception, just falling his hands in the end zone. And was he not paying attention? The ball hit him in the shoulder pad. These are the little things. And when Oklahoma State has lost to these inferior opponents, it's been little things snowballing. It's not big things. It's one little thing after another, and it snowballs until the snowball's so big that it knocks you flat on your back.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you saw. I mean, it's frustrating. Again, we have a third string quarterback come in, and
Grayson,
he didn't have to do
Muhlstein. I almost said Muhlheist.
He didn't have to do a ton,
Muhlstein.
but he did more than enough because we didn't play well offensively, and then we didn't make enough plays. It's frustrating. I'm really trying to search for words.
It's a 6-6 football team.
It is.
It's a 6-6 football team, and they had to beat 2 top 10 teams in the last month of the season to go 6-6.
And you are who you are, regardless of how good you say you are, the potential that you have, the guys that you have out there, who you think can be good players. The reality is this football team is 6-6, and you went out here at TCU Stadium and against a team who hadn't done anything offensively, they with a 13 quarterback, and you lose that ball game after upsetting a top 10 opponent on the road in not on the road, but at Boone Pickens Stadium, and it's tough because it's kind of been like that all year, and you've tried to prepare for it in some ways, but the reality is this is a 6-6 football team, and it showed in its deficiencies against inferior opponents, and you know, against sometimes they play well, but this is not a sometimes game if you want to be good.
How about this?
We're average.
How about this? 10 teams in the Big 12 Conference. Oklahoma State tied for 7th record-wise. The 2 teams they're tied with, Kansas State and Oklahoma State, or Kansas State and Texas Tech, pardon me, both ran Oklahoma State off the football field. Oklahoma State's going to a bowl game, but that's a consolation prize. They finished 9th in a 10-team conference. The only team behind them is Kansas. Rock chalk, baby. Les Miles coming to town. That's the only team that Oklahoma State finished ahead of in the conference. Donovan, this has been an embarrassing season, some of these games they've lost. This is everything that Oklahoma State has done to gain ground over the last decade. I'm not going to say it's all undone. You've got Spencer Sanders next year. You've got some good players. But to have a setback year like this is something that shouldn't happen to a program that has ascended to where Oklahoma State's ascended to.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and we talked a little bit about it on the pregame show. Is this a disappointing season? I think if the way that we played tonight, and you couple that with the inconsistencies of the season, at a 6-6 program after you've been through what you've accomplished in the past 10 years, and I think this is a disappointing season.
It is.
I think if you win this ball game and you have a chance to be on a 3-game win streak going into the bowl game, going into the following season, you get those 15 extra practices to get those guys ready to go in the following season, but to end it on end the meal on a sour bite, as sour as it can get, really, to go out there and basically lay an egg against a team that you were, quite frankly, supposed to beat.
It's the worst team TCU's had in years.
Yeah, and I mean, it is a disappointing season. Guys that you expected to show up didn't show up, and we played like a 6-6 football team who really didn't care much about what the product looked like out there on the field, and it showed. I mean, it didn't look like a team that wanted to go out there and win a football game, and we didn't go out there and win the football game.
Yeah, there was a point in the middle of the third quarter where Oklahoma State had 52 total yards of offense in the Big 12 in 2018, a team that put up 45 on West Virginia a week ago. and they had 52 yards of offense in the middle of the third quarter. Now, TCU took its foot off the gas, and Oklahoma State was able to make a game out of it in the fourth quarter. But what happened whenever you needed a stop? The quarterback scrambles, gets big yardage. Now, Colby Peel gets a stop on third down there late, but then you get the ball back. Dylan Stoner doesn't field the punt. Now your quarterback's taking snaps with his heels on his own end line, and you go 4 and out. You go 4 and out. TCU takes some knees, misses a field goal, doesn't matter, game's over. It just, from a coaching perspective, I don't know what it is throughout the week. I mean, it's Thanksgiving week. That shouldn't matter. Does that matter about getting motivated to play a football game on Saturday?
You know that your opportunities are limited to go out there, and it's something that I'm sure that they talked about because they talked about it back when I was playing. You got 12 opportunities guaranteed to go out there and enjoy a Saturday night football game. And that doesn't even take into account that it might not be 12. You know, Justice Hill thought he had 12. Darian Daniels saw he had 12 games this year. But those guys haven't been able to stay healthy, and that's something that I'm pretty sure that the coaches talk about, and that's a reality for you when you're a player. And it just didn't seem like, it seemed like, you know, it was spring practice was coming to an end. You know, it's not like, I know the season is long, and it's a tough football game, even if it is Thanksgiving. You're getting an opportunity to go out there and do, you know, one of the things that you're best at doing. And you got to be excited about that. We seem disinterested. Like I said, like it's spring practice is winding down.
That's what it was.
And, you know, here we are losing to a team that we shouldn't lose to. It's frustrating.
Well, we talked about the little mistakes that add up to a big loss. How about the lateral to Chuba Hubbard that he drops? First off, hits him right in the hands and he drops it. Second off, why are you running that play half a yard backward? If you run it half a yard forward and you drop it, it's 2nd and 10. You run it half a yard backward and you drop it, it's 7 the other way. I mean, that's, first off, coaches should not allow that play to be run half a yard backward. Shouldn't happen. And players, maybe it was supposed to be executed differently. He was supposed to be in front of Cornelius. Either way, catch the ball. Catch the ball before you start running. Make a play. Don't let them get a scoop and score and get an easy touchdown when their offense is struggling to move the ball.
Yeah, and you know, I attribute that to being a young player and him not quite understanding the importance of
positioning on the field.
Positioning on the field, but catching that ball. He's had some mental lapses, and he's going to be a great player for this Oklahoma State team, but he's still got a lot to learn. You know, I was hoping to see more from LD Brown and a little bit more explosiveness from him, but nothing was explosive today.
No.
Except how bad this team.
Jalen Rager was explosive.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he wears purple. That's Donovan Woods. I'm Colby Powell. We're going to take a break, come back, recap, buy or sell, talk more Oklahoma State, TCU, and take a look at the national picture before we get out of here. Stay with us.
In my mind, I was never going to walk right again. Before we were through, we had walked 23 steps. And that was my first steps of freedom. This patient is saying thank you.
Welcome back to your Oklahoma State franchise postgame show. Colby Powell and Donovan Woods with you, recapping Oklahoma State's 31-24 loss to TCU. And this was just, you talk about a box score nightmare for Oklahoma State. I mentioned in the last segment they only had 52 yards in the first, at one point in the third quarter. Cornelius, 17 of 40 he goes in that game. What's that percentage-wise? That's about 41%-ish. Somebody check my math and let me know. That's pretty close. 181 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. Cornelius was the team's leading rusher with 52 yards and 2 touchdowns. Chuba and LD, those guys combined for 23 carries for 47 yards. That's 2 yards a carry, Donovan. I mean, 2 yards a carry? How does that happen? Is that offensive line? Is that just the team didn't have energy? What's happening that you're getting 2 yards a carry with your running backs?
I'm not sure, but one of the things that, I think back to a game after we beat Pitt, we came in here with Mason, with James Washington.
Last season.
Was it last season?
It was last season.
And this TCU team went out there and beat us in a similar fashion tonight. And to see what they've done to us again, and I don't know if, it's some familiarity there with some coaches that have come from Oklahoma State. And, I saw Coach Lupiter on the sideline, but for whatever it is, it seems like they have us figured out for right now. And it's one of those deals where we'll have to go back to the drawing board as a staff and have a better plan for our guys out there, and then the guys have to go out there and execute the plan better. Because TCU, they dominated us. We couldn't run the football. We couldn't get open. We couldn't make the throws. It was, I don't know if it was bad football by us or if it's just great football by TCU. You want to give them credit for what they were able to accomplish. They've been one of the, I think they are the top defense in the Big 12. And, the rest let them get away with some of those things from a physicality standpoint. But they wanted it more than us.
Usually the team that is more physical gets more leeway from the refs because they're just playing more physical.
Yeah.
And those teams usually get the benefit of the doubt on those calls.
Yeah, and they do. And you saw, Tylen Wallace has been, really good all year. But not a lot was good about how we performed offensively and just kind of as a team. I mean, you have 271 yards of offense in the Big 12. I mean, this is not the Big 10. Like, that's shut down in the Big 12. I mean, and we only put up, 24 points?
24 points, and most of those came late. Oklahoma State was sitting at 3 for a long time in this game.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have had that if they don't turn the ball over there in the first half to put us in that situation. They still make us a field goal. But we're looking at not having any points and TCU taking their foot off the gas there in the second half. And they probably it's extremely frustrating, and I'm turning it. It's frustrating.
Yes.
It really is.
Yeah, it is. So receiving-wise, Tylen Wallace, his Biletnikoff chances took a hit tonight. We talked about Andy Isabella from UMass, his big numbers. Jerry Jeudy had a big day today against Auburn, and Tylen Wallace comes out 4 catches for 64 yards, no touchdowns. And how about Gladney? I think his name was Marcus Gladney for TCU. I'll tell you what, Tylen Wallace didn't have a very good night. The reason he didn't have a very good night is because Marcus Gladney was living in his hip pocket. That was as well as I've seen anyone all season cover Tylen Wallace.
Yeah, he did a great job. I mean, he was there challenging every catch. When it was a catch, he was right there, bang, bang, either, trying to punch it out or getting them on the ground right away. And on the go routes, he's right there going up, over the top of them, making plays on the football, just being extremely physical. And he took it personal because you heard him jawing every time he made a play. And tonight he had a lot of stuff to talk about because, like you said, he was in his hip pocket the entire time. And it wasn't just Tylen Wallace. It was Johnson as well.
And Stoner. Stoner was locked up every time.
I mean, they all had problems tonight. And credit TCU. They played harder. They prepared harder. And they did it better out there on the field in Fort Worth tonight.
Yeah, we're watching highlights of Jalen Rager, and he just went absolutely crazy tonight. Had 212 yards of total offense, 121 of those on the ground, 91 of those through the air. And I tell you what, it didn't look to me pretty much all night like Oklahoma State really wanted to win this game, like they were making big plays, like this game really meant something to them. This game meant something to Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor didn't want TCU's season to end, and he went out and he absolutely balled against Oklahoma State tonight. Without Jalen Reagor, TCU, as bad as Oklahoma State plays, TCU does not win this game without Jalen Reagor. He was phenomenal, and he deserves a ton of credit for the way he played.
Yeah, he went out and did it. I mean, he lined up everywhere in the Wildcat at quarterback. They put him in the backfield and ran the football with him, and then he, catches a screen pass during the second half and goes 40. And he played like he wanted to continue for this TCU season, even with all of the injuries and adversity that they've had. He played like he didn't want it to end, and it's not going to end for these guys. They'll get a chance to go to a bowl game. I definitely wonder if Oklahoma State is in a situation where they're not already having that 6th win. If we don't just go out there and lay down at 5 wins and say the season is over pretty much, we're not going to try to win. We're ready to turn it in anyway.
This looked like a team that had packed it in tonight.
I think it would have been even worse had we not won last week.
Maybe. It seemed to me like they got their 6th win a week ago, and now they're like, we got to 6. We made our bowl game. And it did not look like they wanted to be on the football field tonight with TCU because, once their goals kind of went out the window and they got to that 5th loss, once they beat West Virginia, it's like, hey, we got to 6. We're playing with house money now. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, it would have been even worse if we don't win last week and we're sitting here with TCU really trying to go out here and win this ball game. It seemed like even with that 6th win that we had turned it in, it would have been even worse with 5 because we didn't show any energy or any want to in that game for pretty much the entire 60 minutes, or is 60 minutes?
Yeah, 60 minutes,
yeah.
Yeah, a little different than high school where you coached. A little 48-minute games in high school. I might end up calling a state championship game next week. We'll have to see. But, yeah, I mean, blown coverage on that last TCU touchdown, and TCU was smart. They hit Reagor on the screen earlier in the drive, and then they faked it, and everyone bites on the fake. And, again, it goes back to discipline. You've got to be disciplined, and Oklahoma State was not that tonight. And Oklahoma State really, throughout this season, showed a real lack of discipline.
Yeah, they did, and it's one of those deals. I said it a little bit earlier in this. It's you are who you are. Those penalties, those things that
the special teams blunders for the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's great when you go in there and block 2 of them against Boise State. But how many times have we had roughing the punt penalties?
A few. How many times have we not fielded a punt that cost us 20 yards of field position?
And those are just things that, we'll need these extra 15 practices because we'll go over and we'll continue to do all of those things. But it's disappointing, and, my mind is getting it going because, you talk about all of the things that we've been able to accomplish and how far Oklahoma State has come in these past 10, 15 years. They've made significant strides, but this is a disappointing 6-6 season. This is not like,
This isn't like in 2014 when you beat OU to get to 6-6 and everybody's excited about the future with Rudolph. This feels different. This feels like a gut punch for Oklahoma State fans.
And in a way, it's a good thing because I say it's a good thing. The expectation of us to be better and understand that 6-6 is not who we believe and think that we are. It's going to be a long off season and bowl game preparation. I don't know the bowl game that we're going to go to, but
probably the Cheez-It Bowl.
It's not
Cheez-Its for everybody.
It's not going to be a whole lot of people that are going to be excited to go see us play in that type of bowl game after playing in the Fiesta Bowl, after kind of being on some of the stages.
I can't imagine Oklahoma State fan attendance at the bowl game is going to be anything like what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, and it's great to have that expectation, but it's one of those things where we have to be better than 6-6. I think the program has come farther than being a 6-6 program, and again, I'll go back on some of the words that I said. It's just disappointing to put that kind of performance out there.
Yeah. Absolutely it is. Speaking of disappointing performances, it's time to take a look at buy or sell. This was the last game of the season, and we did not have very good numbers tonight because we did not have very much offense tonight at all. This was a clunker of an offensive game. We had Taylor Cornelius at 300. He got all the way to 181. Didn't quite make it. I bought, you sold, so I took the L on that one. We had Chuba Hubbard, all-purpose at 140. He had 42 rushing, and he did not catch a pass in this game. So he did not get within, he got within 98 of the number. You took the L on that one. We both took the L on Tyler Wallace, whose number we had set at 110. He had 64 receiving yards. The TCU quarterbacks did not get to 150. Mulestein, was that his name? Yeah, this is how bad it is. You lost to a team that I'm having to look up the quarterback's name because nobody's ever heard of him because he's a senior making his first career start. Mulestein threw for 180 to Cornelius' 181. And the deciding factor, you bought that Oklahoma State would force at least 2 turnovers. They forced one 39 seconds into the game, and then they did not force one in the last 59 minutes and 21 seconds. That's a wrap. 5-3-1 buy or sell. Read it and weep.
A.J. Green heard the buy or sell picks before the game and missed the interception on purpose. But it's
I mean, he could, if he would have just turned, he would have fielded it like a punt. Would have landed in his stomach, and there would have been no way he could have dropped it.
I've missed an interception like that. I can think back to a time against Kansas where Todd Reeson threw the ball right to me. And
Todd Reeson.
Right here, and I looked at it like this and threw it on the ground. We ended up losing that game in a fashion that was a lot like tonight.
Was that the Kansas Orange Bowl team?
It was indeed.
Yeah, I was at that game.
Indeed.
I remember that. I'm thinking, number 8, catch the ball. No, I'm just giving you a hard time.
That's the reality. Again, I'm thinking about that right here in this moment because, you know, that team had some great expectations. We had Zach Robinson at quarterback. We still had Dantrell Savage and Darius Bowman on that team. Oklahoma State, I think now should be much further along than a team that won 7 or 8 games in 2007
Yes,
when I was there.
There's no doubt about it.
I think this team is better than we were. But for whatever reason, we haven't played with enough consistency and want to go out there and show it. And here we are sitting at 6-6. We need to be better, unless it's going to be some more disappointing post games here moving forward.
No doubt. It's time for us to call it a night and to call it a season. 6-6 for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Yeah, rough.
3-6 by ourselves.
Rough year. 3-6 in the conference for Oklahoma State. It's been rough. Thank you to the crew. Everyone's been fantastic all season. They are every year and again this season, keeping us on track and making us look a whole lot smarter than we actually are. So we appreciate everyone who's had a hand in this all season long. For the entire crew and for Donovan Woods, I'm Colby Powell. Everyone enjoy the Cheez-It Bowl.
Stillwater Medical Center now offers a convenient way to view your health information online. It's secure, easy, and free. Our hospital and clinic patient portals allow you to view results and reports,